Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. We just talked about some different games from this upcoming weekend. We got Arkansas on the road, a little bit of an upset special in Memphis, Tennessee this upcoming weekend, and then the battle for DFW, SMU against TCU, a very fun one over there in Fort Worth this weekend. But let's go ahead and get into my best bets. A number of games that I feel weirdly confident about. It probably means that things are going to go perfectly this weekend, but at the end of the day, there is a number of games that I feel pretty good about going into this weekend, and we'll start with Memphis. We just talked about it in the last segment. I think Memphis keeps this one close. Plus 7.5 is what I'm going here against Arkansas. I think Brendan Lewis is a really fun football player. And I think what you saw last week with Trinidad Chambliss being able to find openings with his legs, you're probably going to find the same exact thing with Brendan Lewis. Now, obviously, I think Arkansas will play better football on the defensive side of the ball than they did last week. But at the end of the day, that's a very athletic, very electric quarterback that can really make you hurt if you give him openings to make some plays with his legs. The other part is Arkansas is mistake prone. It's not to say that they're going to make a ton of mistakes in this football game, but down the stretch against Ole Miss, they left a little bit on the table. They left maybe the win on the table with a late fumble in that game. I think they're going to give Memphis enough chances in this game to keep it close. I think they'll keep it within 7.5. I think Arkansas will barely win this game, but I think Memphis will keep it close and really put a lot of people on notice about the Tigers. UNLV minus 2.5 over Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio has a real problem stopping the run, particularly from quarterbacks. Throughout this season, they have really struggled to keep guys in the pocket and keep guys from making big plays with their legs. If that's the case, then Anthony Colandre is going to run all over them and make play after play. He's a very talented runner of the football. UNLV is kind of finding it, especially defensively. Offensively, they were kind of rolling from week one. Now, Jaden Thomas had to a little bit save them early on in the season, but at the end of the day, they're rolling offensively. They're starting to find it defensively. I think they're going to be an opportunistic group, not necessarily a elite one down after down, but guys like Denver Harris will make plays. Guys like Amarius Thomas, I believe, is going to make big-time plays, and I think they're going to do enough to win a lot of football games this year, including this one. I think they'll be able to win this one by at least a field goal, make a couple of plays on the defensive side of the ball, and then Anthony Colandre and Jaden Thomas just run absolute wild on this Miami of Ohio defense. TCU minus 6.5 over SMU. I don't love this SMU team. I think they're good. I think they have the ability to make some big time plays this year, kind of win some games in the SEC or ACC, excuse me, maybe make some big time upsets. But at the end of the day, I can't fully trust this team right now. I think the defense is a little bit or a lot of bit questionable in a number of different areas. I think Kevin Jennings is going to play good football. I think there's also going to be a little bit of mistakes in there, and I think losing Brashard Smith was a huge loss for this offense. I think TCU is going to be able to make plays, particularly with his arm in this football game. I think it's going to look not like the UNC game necessarily, but I think they're going to be able to do a lot of things offensively like they were able to do in the UNC game and at least be able to pull away from this team late. I don't think it's necessarily going to be perfect. I think SMU is going to be able to score quite a bit in this football game, but I think TCU is able to win this one by at least 7, maybe able to stretch it to 10 or 14. North Texas minus 2.5 over Army. If you aren't watching Drew Mestemaker in this North Texas offense, you're probably missing out. This is a very special group, no doubt about it, and they're going to be able to put up a fight in the American with Memphis and South Florida and Tulane. It is going to be a really fun conference in a number of ways. This is a huge game for them in that conference, and Army was able to get the massive win over Kansas State in week 2. A lot of people started to kind of buy back into Army after losing to Tarleton State in week 1, but at the end of the day, I think North Texas is going to be able to throw the ball around a lot in this football game. I think they have a very potent offense, and while I think Army is very good, I think North Texas is going to do enough to stop that run game and be able to at least pull away a little bit in this one, win this game by 3 or more. I think that North Texas offense is going to be one of the more fun units to watch the entirety of the year in the entirety of the country. Tulane plus 11.5 versus Ole Miss. This is a little bit of a heart pick, I'll be totally honest. I love this Tulane team. I love John Summerall. I think they put together something really special over there. Love bringing in Jake Retzlaff late and being able to put it all together. Very tough thing to do, but he's been really special, especially with his legs. I think Tulane has the ability to sort of sneak up on Ole Miss here, weirdly enough. You know, Tulane's a very good G5 team. Ole Miss understands that. They're definitely not letting Tulane totally sneak up on them, but they're coming off a really hard-fought game against Arkansas where they had quarterback drama. They have a game next week against LSU at home. This is right that moment where Tulane can at least sneak up on them enough, maybe make this a 7 or 3 point game late in it. I do think Ole Miss is able to win this game, but I think it's going to be really, really close. I think Tulane might jump out to an early lead, maybe hold a lead at halftime, and everyone starts watching, everyone locks in, and then Ole Miss is able to kind of pull away late. But I do think there's a game where you're catching Ole Miss at kind of the right time. You had a really, really emotional game last week that you barely snuck away with. You have an LSU team coming to town that if you beat them, you're firmly in the CFP mix. But I think Tulane can do enough to at least keep this game close, maybe even end up winning it, but I'll pick Ole Miss to win and Tulane to cover. Washington minus 20.5 over Washington State. I'll put this nicely. Washington State is poopy. They're not good at football. They lost to North Texas last week 59-10. They gave up a ton of plays through the air. I think Damon Williams is going to be able to do that. Now, probably not to that level. That being said, he probably doesn't have to do it to that level to still be able to win this game comfortably. Jonah Coleman's going to be an absolute nightmare for that Washington State defense. I think Denzel Boston's going to make play after play in this football game, and I think Washington wins this one pretty comfortably. Now, they do have Ohio State next week, so that's a little bit of maybe a look-ahead spot. I think there's enough juice still in this rivalry now, not too aggressive in a number of ways, but I think there's enough juice in the Apple Cup where these players will be ready to roll for Washington, and I think Damon Williams maybe just peeks his head into the Heisman conversation after this game with a massive, massive performance. Arizona State Baylor over 60.5. I'm a little bit worried about these defenses in a number of different ways. Arizona State lost way too many guys in coverage against Mississippi State, and Baylor, the pass game for SMU, did way too much against you in that first football game. So a lot of big-time questions for these teams. Obviously, Baylor really struggled to stop the run against Auburn as well. Sam Leavitt can do that. Not as many design quarterback runs, but you allow him to get out of the pocket, he's going to make you hurt. There's no doubt about that. I think this one goes a little bit back and forth. I think Jordan Tyson and Josh Cameron make all types of plays. I think they get at least over 61. I think there's big-time questions about both these football teams after this. Not to say they can't make a run in the Big 12, but at the end of the day, the loser's probably in pretty good trouble. You're moved to 2-2 on the season and be in a little bit of murky water going forward. But at the very least, I think we're going to have some fun watching this football game. I think Arizona State's going to find it offensively just a little bit more. I think Baylor and Sawyer Robertson continue to roll and play some good football, and both these teams are at least scoring points in this game. I think I'd lean Arizona State to win it, but not by much. I think it's going to be a really fun back and forth game that really goes down to the wire. Michigan State plus 17.5 over or against USC. I'm a little bit worried about USC. They played good enough football last week. They only scored 26 points offensively. They did not necessarily put on a show at a place where you probably should put on a show. Not to say that Purdue's not a good football team or that they can't do interesting things this year, but at the end of the day, if you want to compete in the CFP and in the Big Ten, that's probably a team that you're going to want to be able to put away in the first half, and they just weren't able to do that. Michigan State's a better offense than they get credit for in a number of different ways. Nick Marsh is a very talented wide receiver on the outside. Aiden Childs is going to make plays. He's probably going to make some mistakes in this football game, but I think he's going to make enough plays to at least keep this thing close. I think they will force some mistakes to a USC team that loves to push the ball downfield. At the end of the day, you're going to walk into a Big Ten team that at the very least knows how to defend that a little bit better. I think Michigan State's able to do that. I think Aiden Childs makes a number of plays in this football game, and I think people leave it thinking USC was able to win it, kind of like last week. USC was able to win it, but how pretty did it actually look from that team that claims they want to make a CFP this year? So a lot of big-time questions around USC. I will take Michigan State to cover that 17.5 because I think Aiden Childs is downright special with the ball in his hand. So it's going to be a really fun weekend. I think there's 3 big-time games like there were last week now. Miami, South Florida didn't get a ton of love because I think a lot of people knew what was going to happen in that football game. It's exactly what happened. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a really, really fun weekend to get into. I think we got 3 games that are totally going to change up the CFP race. And then you got a Michigan-Nebraska game that could mean just as much as an Indiana-Illinois game. You have a Miami-Florida game that could lead to a firing, or Florida wins it and everything flips around in the moment and everything's rolling in Gainesville and they got a game against Texas in 2 weeks where maybe they get another big time win and they continue rolling on down the road. So a lot on the line this upcoming weekend. We could have a couple upsets. I will bet we'll have a couple upsets. I bet we'll have some incredible games, and I think at the end of it all, we'll have a better look at the CFP. Probably not a great one if I'm being totally honest, but I think we'll have a better look. We'll talk about a number of stuff on Friday. We'll get into some big-time superlatives for this upcoming weekend, give some final thoughts about these games. We'll get into all the big-time updates from this past week. Probably talk about Dabo Sweeney's rant just a little bit more on Friday if I had to imagine. But at the end of the day, thank you guys so much for tuning into just another college football podcast. Please do like, subscribe, comment. It's meant the world to me seeing the numbers continue to go up ever so slightly, go up throughout the last couple of weeks. We will continue to bring it Monday, Wednesday, Friday throughout the college football season. We will have all the updates for you. We'll get into a lot of stuff on Friday, and we'll break it all down as we get into an incredible Week 4 slate. But thank you so much for tuning in. Please do like, subscribe, comment. It means the absolute world to me. But thank you once again for tuning in, and I will see you guys on Friday.